49,000 people. But even though the global economy is slumping in these times, ExxonMobil, the world's largest energy company, just released third-quarter earnings. Profits soared 58% to a record $14.8 billion, the biggest quarterly profit ever for a U.S. corporation. Investors will be weighing these developments when Wall Street opens. You see a live picture there of the big board as soon as they start trading. In about 25 minutes, we're going to go there live. In the meantime, though, pre-market indicators are pointing to a strong open. Let's go live to the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. CNBC's Rebecca Jarvis following all of these developments. So this GDP number, how will it play in what we might see today on Wall Street?
Tamron, it's a great question, and what's interesting here is that even though the GDP contracted 0.3%, the part that traders are focusing on is the fact that that was in fact better than many were anticipating. Many were looking for a contraction of a full 0.5% or even 2% in the GDP. So they're taking that number and saying perhaps it's a positive sign that things are not as bad as many had anticipated. Also, you mentioned the jobless claims number. The fact that those are unchanged this week is a positive signal for many that are looking at jobless claims as an indicator of the economy. And then on top of that, continuing claims, those are the claims where you're looking forward, also were better than expected. So, Tamron, the ideology here, at least at this moment, as futures are pointing 200 points higher on the Dow, is that perhaps things are not as bad as some had expected, and that maybe they're even getting better when they look at those jobless numbers going forward.
And, Rebecca, let's talk about ExxonMobil. We included them in the headline there. Nearly $15 billion in profits last quarter. We're also tracking the price of oil, and I think yesterday was at $65 a barrel.
Right. It was at $65 a barrel yesterday, Tamron. So if you sort of think about where we are with oil right now versus where we were in the summertime when we were at those all-time highs, $147 a barrel back in July, that $147 a barrel oil is what helped ExxonMobil get this record quarter. Things may not be looking as good for this company, ExxonMobil, come the next quarter because prices have basically halved themselves, and that's in part thanks to the fact that we here in the U.S. and other countries around the world are using less oil.
Interesting. All right, Rebecca, thank you very much. And I want to bring in this statement that I just received in my hands from the McCain-Palin campaign. It is from Doug Holtz-Eakin, that is McCain senior policy advisor, and it's in response to the GDP number that we were just talking about. In part, it says today's announcement that the third quarter GDP fell 0.3% confirms what Americans already knew. The economy is shrinking. Barack Obama would accelerate this dangerous course, according to the Independent Center of Data Analysis. And they say Barack Obama's new policies will destroy nearly 6 million jobs over the next decade. So that's an immediate reaction we're seeing from the McCain campaign on this number. And we're waiting, obviously, to hear something from the Obama campaign. And all of that economic news coming just 5 days before we elect a new president. And David Schuster is covering the latest in the battle for the White House live from our politics desk.
Tamron, and we're hearing lots of reaction this morning to Barack Obama's 7 network infomercial. Many had questioned the strategy, at least many Republicans, saying it could make Obama look pompous. Instead, reviews this morning call it an emotional video that put a face to Obama's plans for taxes, health care, and help for retirees. But John McCain called it an example of what he says is another broken promise by Obama. He says the money Obama used to buy the $4 million ad came from private donations when he had promised to take public funding. Meantime, new numbers show that McCain and the RNC are having to dig deep into their pockets to put money into Ohio, Virginia, Pennsylvania, even matching Obama dollar for dollar in the Sunshine State. That said, there's very little McCain can do to match Obama's big multi-million-dollar ad last night. Let's get right to NBC News Deputy Political Director Mark Murray for today's first read on politics. And Mark, first of all, what do you imagine the impact of the commercial would be?
Well, Democratic sources that I spoke with absolutely loved the infomercial. Republican ones, and this shouldn't be surprising, didn't care for it all that much. I guess the big question would be whether independents and undecideds actually thought that that it made a favorable impression on them. And I don't think that we have any data on that just yet, or any hard opinions. However, even if it was, even if it didn't go over well with these independent, undecided voters, one thing is pretty sure: it basically gobbled up an entire day worth of conversation, and just with 5 days to go, any amount of time where Barack Obama is dominating the conversation is probably good news for him.
Mark, a slew of new polls out this morning showing Obama still holds a pretty steady lead in Ohio, Nevada, North Carolina, even Pennsylvania. One poll has him up by 12 points, although there's another poll that suggests he's up by 4. I mean, what does McCain do? Does he try to plant himself in Pennsylvania with the hopes of picking off that state that went to John Kerry 4 years ago? Does he try to shore up Ohio, a state that obviously was in the George W. Bush column 4 years ago?
I think Pennsylvania is probably his best bet. As you mentioned, there's a new NBC Mason-Dixon poll that has Obama up just 4 points, although there are many other polls out there that suggest Obama's lead is much bigger than that. However, you know, Pennsylvania is a state rich with electoral votes, and if you assume that Barack Obama is doing very well in the Mountain West states of Colorado, New Mexico, and Nevada, then a state like Pennsylvania becomes a must for John McCain. So I think that they're smart focusing on the state. The question is, you know, it's still a very uphill climb for them.
All right, Mark Murray, NBC News Deputy Political Director. Mark, thank you very much.